Hallo und herzlich willkommen zum DOK.fest at Home 2021. Mein Name ist Christina Wolf und ich möchte Sie natürlich darauf hinweisen, dass auch dieser Film, über den ich jetzt gleich mit der Regisseurin sprechen werde, für den Kino-Publikumspreis nominiert ist. Für den können Sie abstimmen, der ist vom Bayerischen Rundfunk und von Dreisat gestiftet und Sie sind die Juroren. Und der Film, über den es jetzt geht hier in diesem Filmgespräch, das ist ein Film aus unserer Fokusreihe, aus unserem Gastland Kanada. And it is a huge, huge pleasure that I can talk to the director of Le Silence or The Silence, Renée Blanchar. Hello.
Hi. I'm really happy to be here, even virtually.
Yeah, it's wonderful. At least I can feel you're almost here in Munich. Renée, tell me, what was your personal motivation to do that film?
That's a really good question. The film, it was a film that was very scary to do for me. It wasn't, I kind of like sort of lighter subject, try to find, I don't know, I have something with really tough subject like this that are really, scary at first, but it's like I didn't choose to do the film. The film chose me, the subject chose me. At first I heard about these stories because the film deals with sexual abuse by priests on young boys. At first I just heard about it like everybody else, and you know, I was shocked like everybody else, and I thought it was still not, it was not something personal, but it was just as a citizen, I was really shocked by the whole thing and the magnitude of it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, this story starts to unfold where I live. And I realized that one of the priests that was in my first documentary I ever made, which was like a light and loving documentary about maids of priests, yep, and how they lived a free life, being in a living by a side of the priest, because they were, I don't know, they weren't nuns and they weren't married and they kind of had a blast. And anyways, so I made this film, and a secondary character, I realized after a while had been abusing boys. And all of a sudden the story got really personal, because I had been, it's not that I'd known him, but you know, he was there when I was filming with the lady, and I was just thinking, how could I not see anything, or how did it happen? And yeah, was it me as a director who was just interested in one story and wasn't seeing anybody else? So the whole thing was like, what do we take from people? How do we take it? What's our responsibility?
Yeah.
And because of that, I started questioning my own silence. Mm-hmm. And then I got drawn by the story, because I felt that my own silence as a filmmaker, as a citizen, and regarding this first film, like I couldn't make up for the film. It was made and it was there and it had been there for years, but what could I do now? And that's how I got into that story. That's why I say the silence came to me and said, hey, you know, what are you doing? Why are you silent?
Is that the reason why you included yourself in that film too? There's your voiceover, and then I can see you interacting with the protagonists. Is that the reason why?
It's one of the reasons, because I thought I had to put myself out there, and that was part of thinking that, you know, about my responsibility. But it was also that as we got along, and as I got to meet the men, and you know, mm-hmm, they were very confident with me, and they were ready to go very far in their stories. I thought also that as I was there, also taking the hand of the viewers of the film, because I didn't want to leave them alone, and I didn't want to leave the men alone. It was as if I was the switch, or the link between the people that were receiving the film and the people that were in the film. And I think that the viewers can react also to the way I receive things, because I received them for real. And I don't know, it was maybe the step that I had to do to really assume the project and say, okay, I'm in it, I'm all there, and I'm there with the men of the film.
You even mention it in the film, how challenging or difficult it was to get closer to the men. There's a scene when you mention that, to gain their trust.
Yes.
How did you do it? How did you build up the trust? How much time did you invest? And how did you prepare yourself for the amount of trauma you would encounter?
I don't think that we're ever really prepared, in the sense that we have a script, even in a documentary, we have a script. In life, we have scripts. And I think then reality kicks in. So I had this script in my mind that I was gonna meet, men with hard stories to tell, but it was much more than I had thought. But as you get along, as you get to meet someone, as you spend time with, because I spend a lot of time with them, talking, not talking, going fishing, doing very, very different, things, not always relating to what happened to their trauma, but to everything else. So you can meet people and know the layers. So it took time, and that's what I like in documentary. When I do my films, I take time to prepare a lot, but I take time to shoot them also. I like to shoot over a year or in seasons, So anyways, for this film particularly, I didn't know anybody in that village where I shot the main part of the film. So how was I gonna get to know someone, or how was I didn't know what to get. And then I got this idea. I said to my producer, why don't I write a letter telling them why I'm here, and the fact that I did a film, and the story that I tell in the film. I made a film. I met this priest. He was not a good priest. I know something happened in your village. Can you help me? So it's a small village. We had about 900 letters that went in the box mail, in the mixed ball. And I said, I'm moving to the village, and I'm going to stay there for, 3 months, let's say. So I'm there, nothing happens, nobody follows me. It's like the first week is like that. And then one day a guy called me and just said, why are you here? You shouldn't be doing that. This is an old story. Some things happen where you live. The whole thing, and hung up on me. And so that was my first encounter with the story. So I thought, okay, this is not going to be easy. And then 2 men came. And they're in the film. They're the guys in the arena, and they came, and I think they came to check me out, what kind of person I was, and so we sat, for 2 hours, and they started telling me, about the village and that, and by the time they left, I knew that a connection was made, a good connection was made, and then it suddenly. Few men phoned me, and because those 2 guys, Bobby and Ola, had said, okay, you can call this girl, she's okay. And every time I was saying, you don't have to be, you don't have to be in the film. If you can just help me, to understand. And that's how some people got in. But the 2 main characters that are in Capelle, I knew already that they were going to be in the film, and when we met, they were ready for it. And when we sat down, it was hard, but they really told me their story. It was, you want to know? We're going to tell you. So that's how I got in. But you really have to me, you have the purpose of your film, but you have to grasp something larger of their life in order to get really to the sensitive part. And that can only be done by spending time.
Yeah. There's, I would call it a theory that you actually, speak about in your film, that the silence is actually not helping, that we need to talk about the traumas and in order to heal. And many people need to talk about, bad things that happen to them. Do you think the film kind of helped your protagonists to heal, talking to you and seeing themselves, in a film talking about that, what happened to them?
Yes, I would say without a doubt, yes. Mm-hmm. And I would, in the process of the film was one thing to believe the silence was important, but when I showed the film to the men and the family in a private seance, it's then I realized the importance of it. Mm-hmm. Because the silence, it's like I would say it's like a cancer or something. It's like a disease. It's like you have it, you don't really know what it is, but and it kind of affects everybody around you. And when you start to break it, it's like a domino thing, Yeah. So let's say for the kids of these men, they knew things about their father, but they didn't have the big picture. And so I was very nervous when we showed them the film because I thought, oh my God, how are they going to receive it? And they were, they cried a lot. Like it was really, really emotional, but they were so proud and they could understand things about their father and how their father was with them and how they wanted to be with their kids. And so, yes, I do believe, but that silence is very important. But what is hard is, I think everybody has some sort of silence, and to different levels, of course. Everything is not like traumatic, but it's just that when you go there into that zone of letting it out, it's really something. It's really a feeling of freedom, and it does liberate people around you. It's. Mm-hmm. I even, I had a session with a counselor when I did the film, because I'm not an angry person in life. Like, I like life. I love life. And I'm not drawn, that's why the subject was hard. And it was so good for me to go there, because I think it changed me also. And so I had to talk with this counselor and see, visiting my own silence, sort of, or even some of the silence in my family, which were, big stories, still were there. So that's how it unreveals when you go into that zone. And I think it's scary, but it makes you feel better.
In your film, 2 suicides are mentioned. One that happened a long time ago, and one that happened when a man killed himself in the process of actually talking about it and, getting, receiving money actually from the church as,
Yes.
And were you worried about, talking about that and getting all that trauma out, that something like that might happen? Some people might not be able to cope with talking about it and, being out in the open and talking about the sexual abuse that they've experienced. How much did you think about that?
Always. I still do. Mm-hmm. I still do. The film exists. I'm not worried, but I'm always sensitive to the fact that it could be really a trigger point for someone to go one way or another. But, and I hope nothing like that would happen. And I talked about that a lot with the survivors. Yes. They helped me validating the importance of speaking, and to them, because some of them knew some of the people who committed suicide, and it was to kill their voice also, and the voices they were hearing inside. So, it's hard to tell the truth, but I think it's harder not to tell it, and I always think or wish that if someone is really shocked by the film, and it reveals something about his own life, know that he will be able to find someone to get it out. But I mean, with this kind of subject, it's always a risk. But should it be better not to do the film? I don't think so.
No, me neither. Let me ask you about the perpetrators, the priests who actually did those crimes. I feel like in your film, they remain phantoms, I would say. And
yes.
I wonder...
By their own fault.
I mean, you gave them a lot of opportunities to talk, but still, they remain very anonymous. And I wonder, is that because you think they don't deserve it, which I share, that emotion? And is it because when they are phantoms, it's not an individual thing? Because then I feel like it's one priest, like so many other Catholic priests who did that to the children. Were those two arguments that why you chose it like this? Because then we feel like, it can be every priest, because we don't know that specific one. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, but that thing about that's the church's own fault that we don't know in a way. And I think the answer is a bit of both of what you're saying. It's like because the church in its structure is protecting, and not giving names. Anyways, where I live, where we live, and in Canada, it's a big, I live in one small part of Canada, but it's the whole country lived what we lived in, in Acadia. Yeah. So, but the whole culture of silence and not naming the priest and makes it that, yes, you don't really know. Of course, there are good priests, but we don't really know who are they and who are the bad ones and why. So it becomes like a big institution, like big industries, that don't have a soul anymore. I don't know how to explain it, but so the individual is sort of meaningless, and it's the contrary of why you have a church and why you believe in something. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? It's really a strange position, but it tells you how deep the problem is.
I mean, there was one number that really shocked me, and of course, I mean, we've all read so many stories about the abuse happening in the Catholic Church, but that number, when it says that it's 50% of the children in a community that has been, 50% of the children have been abused by one priest. Do you feel like you're still, even after this film, we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the abuse?
I think that was particularly violent in the village, but I think it happens elsewhere, like that elsewhere. Yeah. And it's funny because when I did that film, there was at the same time in France, in Lyon, there was a big thing about a priest. And because I thought, where I come from, it's a pretty, some communities are poor, and I thought it had to do with the level of education sometimes. And then at the same time, as I was doing my film, there was this thing about this priest in Lyon, where Lyon is like, it was the rich who got their kids abused, and many. So it's not a question, it's a question of how we relate to power and religion. But I think that number is very shocking, 50%. But I think it did happen, and I think it did happen. It's like a tip of the iceberg, yes. And you know what I would like us to go deep and understand also the mechanism of how it happened. But that part of the answer belongs to the church, and the church would have to be open to make that step in order to have the truth out there. And to me, it's that the least thing they can do in order to really rejuvenate or have something, change their mindsets about everything and make people maybe believe again. I don't know. But when you see my film, I think you understand why church is so out, because there was too many damage, and that's one dimension of it, you know.
When I watched your film, I don't know, I feel like I was very torn between being devastated and very, very sad, and so angry. I got so angry when I watched the film. How did you deal with your own emotions in that film, and how did they evolve and change in the making of the film?
Well, I told you earlier, you know, I had to have counseling because I got angry like you, and I got so angry that I don't think my creation is not nourished by angriness. It has to have a light or something in it. It has to have hope. So it was a real intimate battle for me to try to get over my sadness and my rage to get the film out there and you know, and have something still. I don't know if there's hope. I think there is, but to show a dignity, you know, this man, and to go and to have some kind of a real reflection on it. So, because I think when you're mad, you don't really think anymore. You think straight. And I had, you know, what really helped me was the obligation I felt to make a strong film for those men. Like at one point, it's like I wasn't important anymore. Like get your shit together, and you know, solve your problems, and you have something here that is more important than you. You have to take those men, what they have to say, and you have to bring it out there, and you have to make people listen.
Yeah, in which you've succeeded masterfully. So thank you so very much, Renée, for talking to you, and thank you very much for making this, I don't know what to say, heartbreaking and very important film. And it's a pleasure to have you here with us at DOK.fest.
Pleasure to be here, thanks.
So thank you very, very much, Renée Blanchar. And I would switch to German now. Und auf jeden Fall schauen Sie sich bitte The Silence an. Das ist ein sehr, sehr, sehr bewegender und sehr, sehr wichtiger Film. Und vergessen Sie nicht abzustimmen für den Kino-Publikumspreis. And now I would like to say goodbye.